Standing tall for basic rights, that is the topic of tonight's byline. The left in this country loves to talk about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, about standing up for the rights of the little guy. The media is much the same way. The Charter's wonderful, they say. The Charter's grand, but they don't really believe it. See, to them, the Charter is just a political weapon, one to be used in the courts and in the court of public opinion to attack political foes. Don't like legalized prostitution? Well, you're against the Charter and a woman's right to security of the person. Don't like free heroin to junkies or convicts? Well, same thing. The Charter is a political weapon to the left, not a statement of principles. Because while we can debate whether legalizing prostitution or giving junkies heroin will actually make them safer, there's no debate that allowing police to come into your home without a warrant violates Section 8 of the Charter, which reads, everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. It's a long-standing principle of Canadian law and British common law before that the state cannot simply walk into your home and rummage around. William Pitt put it best when he said, "The poorest man may in his cottage bid defiance to all the force of the crown. It may be frail, its roof may shake, the wind may blow through it, the storms may enter, the rain may enter, but the King of England cannot enter. All his forces dare not cross the threshold of the ruined tenement." And yet we have warrantless searches on the books in Canada. And last week, we brought you the story of a Toronto man who had to let police into his home to do an inspection just because they felt like it. He hadn't done anything wrong. He hadn't broken any laws. There was no case against him. And yet the cops were allowed in. Where's the media outcry about this? Well, there isn't one. And there isn't one for one simple reason. The man was forced to allow police into his home because he owns guns.
You're on our list to inspect is because being a very young person living in a condo by himself, ordering and buying firearms regularly for the last year and a half, 2 years, you know, you're on the radar.
I see.
And you know what? I'll tell you right now, you're going to remain on the radar.
Going to remain on the radar. And this man has to allow warrantless searches of his home at any point because he owns guns. Something we would not allow to happen to a murder suspect. A conviction would be thrown out without that. Something we would not allow to happen to child pornographers. But to gun owners, it's okay. Remember what I said a minute ago. The left likes to say, hey, they love the Charter. The media party will tell you they love the Charter as well. But when there is a clear-cut case of civil rights being breached, of a law on the books being too tough, they will be silent. This isn't a gun issue. Criminal defense lawyer Solomon Friedman, who defends some really bad dudes in court, well, he summed it up nicely.
All Canadians should be very worried that there are a select group of people who do not have the same protections as other Canadians. Anyone else, if you want to enter their home and you're the state, you require a signed search warrant from a judge or justice authorizing that intrusion into their private property. What we have here are a special class of people who have a reduced amount of civil rights.
A civil rights issue. That's what this is. And that's why I'm on this beat. Not because I like to shoot guns, but because of the attack on basic liberties that gun owners face day in and day out in this country. I first started on this with the reclassification of the Army Jagr AP-80, a move that turned law-abiding gun owners into criminals and saw the government confiscate their private property without compensation. We've seen that since with other reclassifications, including the Swiss Arms Classic and the CZ family of rifles. Rifles that were legal, approved, made illegal by a lab rat in a coat. And the gun owners turned into paperwork criminals overnight. I fought that civil rights violation. You fought that civil rights violation. And the government backed down. They're bringing in changes. More needs to be done, but they are acting. But where was the media on this? Where was the political left? Well, they were either silent or complaining about the government caving into the gun lobby. Again, they don't care about charter rights. They don't care about civil rights, not the ones that protect average citizens from government action or government overreach. On the left and in the media, they only like the ones that turn vice into newfound positive rights. It's why they were silent on what happened with the confiscations. It's why they're silent on last week's story of warrantless searches. It's why they were silent on the High River gun grab. When there were still daily updates on High River, Sun News was virtually alone in asking about the illegal search and seizure. And I predicted at that time that the other media would only care if a pot growing operation was busted during the RCMP's door-kicking searches. And sure enough, a day or two after I made that prediction, news broke of some pot material being seized, and suddenly CBC was asking about warrantless searches. But they never cared about the guns, and they still don't. Should we really be surprised, though, considering how gun issues are treated by most of the media in this country? Remember last week how the Toronto Star, Huffington Post, and CBC showed their ignorance on Canada's gun laws? They freaked out over Peter MacKay wearing a T-shirt from the National Firearms Association. CBC's David Common, well, he even went on air claiming that the group wants to make semi-automatics legal.
Canada's National Firearms Association has posted a photo of MacKay on its Facebook page. He's wearing a T-shirt with a logo of a silhouette of a rifle blended with a maple leaf. The words "No Compromise" are written below it. That photo is leading to questions about whether the Justice Minister is showing support for the gun lobby, which wants to legalize the possession of semi-automatic weapons.
Of course, semi-automatics, which means you have to pull the trigger each time you want to shoot, well, they're already legal in Canada. There's never been a ban, but how could CBC possibly know that? It's this kind of ignorance. Now, it's this type of blatant bias that helps explain the lack of stories on gun owners having their civil rights trampled by overzealous police and overreaching laws. The reason the NFA has adopted the No Compromise slogan is that compromise has led to where we are today, simply owning a gun, something families used to order out of the Eaton's catalog, something millions of Canadians still own and keep in their homes. Well, it makes them second-class citizens, not worthy of the charter rights most of us take for granted and that the left and the media claim they support. An injustice is an injustice, no matter who is suffering, and I don't plan on quitting my campaign for justice and equal treatment for gun owners until the job is done. And that's the byline.